This is my first encounter with a Simagic wheelbase, and they sent their best. The top of the line Alpha U. This costs around 1150 quid, including tax, from Race Anywhere in the UK. I'm going to put Simagic's 23Nm range topper to the job and discuss the good and bad qualities, and believe me, there are things I like and dislike here. After watching, I hope to give you a clearer idea whether the Alpha U is the right choice for your ultimate wheelbase. Let's get to it. As always with my hardware reviews, please be aware that Simagic has sent the Alpha U for free in exchange for review. That's the reason why I mark videos like this as a paid promotion, but please be aware that this is a review, not an ad. Good and bad points will be covered, and there are a few of each. Simagic has left me alone to do exactly this, without any attempt to influence or interfere, and all words are my own. They don't get to see this before you do. Please watch the whole video through before making a decision on whether or not to buy. But if you do proceed to go on and buy, then you'll find some Simagic retailer affiliate links in the video description. By using those before you buy, you'll help support me, but you don't have to. Check out the long list of Simagic resellers that's also listed in the description. There may be a reseller in your region that's just better suited to you, so don't forget to check that list. One last thing before we get going, really important. Simagic has not seen this video, but they have received my criticism about their warranty period for the Alpha U. They've received that loud and clear. If they make any changes to the warranty term, I'll put an update in a pinned comment underneath that video. So don't leave the video, don't make any decisions before checking that pinned comment, because it's really important. It's a really big factor. First up, a quick summary of the main talking points. The force feedback is wonderful, razor sharp, agile and extremely strong, but not quite as clean feeling as others I've used without the aid of smoothing. It's very friendly to whatever cockpit you have, with both front, side and bottom mounting options and a generally compact size. The Alpha U by itself doesn't do anything unique, it's the fact that you get access to Simagic's extensive line of wheels and hubs that makes it really appealing. The warranty is probably the Alpha U's biggest weakness. It's 2 years in EU countries by law, but it's only 1 year everywhere else, including the UK. That's a shorter guarantee than almost every other wheelbase brand, so it's not as safe a bet. Generally speaking, if you're already committed or hooked onto Simagic, then the Alpha U is definitely a smart choice. It is every bit a top-end performer. But if you're not bothered about Simagic's ecosystem and you're open to other brands, then I'd give serious thought to another brand with a longer warranty. Within the box, you'll find the Alpha U motor and power supply, but also a safety stop switch. The motor mounts either via the front, like you see here, or via threaded holes on the underside that should work on pretty much any rig, and there is also the option of a side mount if you need extra options. So regardless of what cockpit you have, you should be able to mount things up without much resistance. Your only consideration will be the strength and rigidity of your setup. I have a GT Omega Prime, but a Prime Lite would be more than enough. The power, data and accessory ports are on the side of the wheelbase. This is a quirk that you'll want to know about. On my front mount rig, the cables just so happen to clear the aluminium profile sections you can see here, but what if they didn't? The Alpha and Alpha Mini appear to be shorter than the Alpha U, so if I happen to be using either of those, there's a chance the ports would be inaccessible. I can't imagine there'd be an issue mounting the base at 90 degrees if I had to. I've seen examples of people doing that when they've encountered this issue, but it'd personally annoy me to no end if I had to do that. So just keep this in mind. If you're using a front mount system that looks like this, the Alpha U will likely clear it, the Alpha Mini might not. The wheelbase has no onboard on-off switch, instead there's a simple rocker switch in the power cable. A bit annoying because you might have to go diving behind your rig to reach it depending on your layout, but the VRS wheelbase I just came from was also essentially laid out this way with no power switch on the wheelbase itself, so the Alpha U is not the only one playing this game. I can't single it out for it, but it's worthy of comment because it does make things a little less convenient. The emergency stop button doesn't kill the base's power, it just stops the wheel activity, so it doesn't really count as a power button. The bright green lights on the base and the stop switch are also permanently on when the base is on, no way to disable them. It's not in my eye line at all, so it doesn't affect me, but if you want to disable it, then your only option is going to be a bit of tape. The quick release is the NRG style system, which is also employed by Moser, Camus, and even VRS is transitioning to it in a modified form. It's a low cost, highly effective, tried and tested system. Whilst the quick release carries power to Simagic wheels, it doesn't carry data. Simagic steering wheels are in fact wirelessly paired with their wheelbases. This method has been rock solid and problem free for me with the Neo X, not a single flicker of unreliability, so whilst I normally reserve a bit of a side eye towards wireless communication for reliability critical stuff, it ain't done me wrong at all so far. However, the biggest quirk of all is one that you can't see. Despite the Alpha U costing a pretty chunky 1150 quid, Simagic only guarantees it for 1 year. And yes, there are some regions, namely the EU countries, where Simagic has to guarantee it for 2 years by law. But everywhere else, including the UK, it's just a 1-year warranty. That's one of the shortest warranty periods going, and it's not very reassuring. Alongside general customer feedback and long-term reviews, the manufacturer warranty is one of the best ways to gauge how confident the manufacturer is and how confident the customer should feel. Most other brands like Simicube, Acertech, BRS, etc. will give you 2 to 3 years or more depending on the product. Even Moser has put their warranty up to 2 years on all wheelbases. When I review stuff, I try to zero in on any reasons why somebody might miss out on your money, reasons you might choose not to buy, and the short warranty is easily the biggest one. So I would encourage Simagic to consider plugging that shortfall so you can be more confident when you buy, and it would only take them the stroke of a pen to do it. We'll have to see if this ever changes, but in the meantime, it's best to rely on Simagic's generally happy customer base who are largely pretty content. They have inspired an enthusiastic and loyal fan base, a customers for life sort of thing, which is always a good sign. The Alpha wheelbases don't appear to have a bad reputation, and I generally hear mostly good things from customers and distributors, but this is all just feeling, not exactly hard data. The only hard data I can offer is that the only brake pedal that has ever failed on me was the P1000. The load cell failed, and it was Race Anywhere that handled replacement once I contacted Simagic about the issue. This is one reason why, when it comes to Simagic, avoid ordering directly from Simagic themselves. Order from one of their distributors. They actually encourage this themselves, by the way. But enough with the run-up, let's talk about the force feedback experience. What's it like to use? Generally speaking, the Alpha U driving experience has been excellent and well up to par. Easy to get going with, very little cause for complaint. Simagic's software companion is called SimPro, and within here are the usual suspects of adjustability, including damping, smoothness, friction, inertia, but also feedback detail and frequency, and I'll touch on those later. You can choose from a bunch of presets included with the wheel. I gave the iRacing preset a try and it was pretty decent. A little bit lightweight, but it was pretty close to the mark. So if you're in doubt as to what to do with your feedback tuning, just try a preset and you'll probably be in the ballpark. With up to 23 Nm of power, the Alpha U has the capacity to faithfully power any wheel for any simulation, whether that's with small formula wheels or big road rims. Part of the reason you'd pay the price for a top-level wheelbase is so that you never encounter a power shortfall, regardless of the path sim racing takes you either now or down the line, be it race, rally or road. I can confirm, much like its top-line competitors that I've tried along the way, such as the Acertech Invicta, Fanatec DD1, VRS DFP, the Alpha U has incredible power delivered relatively quietly with lightning agility, certainly more power than I myself will ever require. In order to put a wheelbase through my own personal tests, I usually defer to iRacing because it's what I know best. I can tell if there's any subtle differences between wheelbases, that's where I'm going to pick it up. But iRacing is not necessarily the best for force feedback, so now I am including Le Mans Ultimate in the mix as well as BeamNG for the rougher stuff. Now if you're looking at an Alpha U, I'd guess you're probably on an entry-level or mid-range wheel right now, and you're eyeing up your big end-game upgrade, and you also like the look of Simagic's overall product line, their ecosystem. It's drawn you to Simagic's Alpha wheelbases so that you can access them. In that respect, if you're coming from something entry level like a G93 or T300, you'll have your socks blown explosively off by what is a fundamentally different and better experience with something like the Alpha U. There are very few sim racing enthusiasts that make such an enormous jump and don't feel consistently excited and invigorated by it. It is a passion multiplier, and a similar feeling happening to me is literally to blame for the creation of this YouTube channel. No joke. If you're coming from something that's around 8 to 12 Newton meters, so mid-range, you will very much love, appreciate and enjoy the extra detail and extra cornering load brought to you by such a high power ceiling. It will truly cement the realism into your sim racing experience, and you will from now on taste the lingering fear that can only be brought to you by a simulator that can not only fight back, but make you feel smaller than the virtual car you're driving. Whilst the jump from mid to high level is not as astonishing as it is to jump from entry to high level, you will still be very much hooked. The Alpha U has very crisp power and agility, that certainly cannot be questioned. However, to me it doesn't feel quite as clean or clear or pure as the Acertec or VRS wheelbases, but that could be a trick of the light, so to speak. When I set smoothness to 0, you can certainly feel a very pronounced grittiness when sweeping the wheel from side to side when it's under resistance, when you're out on track going 10 or 100 miles per hour. As soon as you set smoothness to 3 or above, however, it starts to become much smoother. Smoothness at 3 is definitely the best middle ground between a clean feeling and still getting those razor sharp edges on force feedback effects that you might want. Anything above that feels very smooth, but you start to lose the detail in some of the higher frequency effects like ripple curbs and such. At 0 smoothness, it's almost as though you can feel every byte of data streaming to the wheel with 0 polish or refinement. During testing, I had my butt kicker switched off so I could really tune my sensors into the wheelbase in isolation. But when I switch the butt kicker on, something cool happens, in much the same way that I wrap the dog's medicine in a slice of ham so she doesn't notice. The butt kicker's ambient rumble means I feel all the sharpness of the unsmoothed force feedback, but most of the noise and grittiness at the base is concealed by the vibrations, so I just leave the settings at 0 smoothness for the rawest response. However, larger rims will also hide this attribute. It's only really with smaller, lighter rims that you'll feel the effect I'm referring to any significant degree. With the small and light Cube Controls 0 rim, I really feel it, but with the Simagic P330R rim, it's much smoother, and you'll hardly really notice what I'm even talking about here. The damper, friction and inertia settings are really effective. These settings sound boring but should never be overlooked because you can change the very core of how the cars feel and how they travel through each phase of corners. And if you line up your driving style with the perfect balance of these three, then you could quite literally drive better and faster. I do usually leave these at 0, but I know for a fact that if I was going to delve back into ACC for example, I'd be adding friction and inertia into the mix, possibly even some centering spring, so I could have a better weight distribution feeling. And if I was focusing on iRacing's Porsche Cup car, then I'd probably find myself adding a dash of inertia and friction in there to try and counteract the Cup car's fairly light steering feel, and you have enough power here to make every setting matter. Even in my simple experimentations, I feel very confident that I can make the Alpha U feel exactly how I need to, regardless of the situation. And the ability to save and switch profiles within SimPro is really convenient too. So what about those two settings I mentioned earlier, detail and frequency? I'll say one thing for sure, the Alpha U is already tremendously agile and detailed without the aid or intervention of either of these settings. It doesn't need any help at all in Le Mans Ultimate, and it's also still very good with iRacing, particularly on crunchy tracks like Sebring or Long Beach. The scuttle and rattle over the wedge curves at Long Beach in particular highlight the Alpha U's legitimate sharpness, and Simagic is one of the manufacturers that has successfully integrated with iRacing's updated 360Hz force feedback system. To be honest, I played with the detail and frequency settings for a while in iRacing, LMU and BeamNG, and as far as I can tell, it just seems to actually reduce the ultimate level of detail I feel. I certainly don't feel like any change it brings is necessarily for the better. I personally find that the feedback comes across as the most vibrant and engaging with both settings off. The Alpha U is detailed enough without anything massaging or modifying the signal, and I found it to be the case regardless of the smoothness level I was using. I just preferred the naked, unsmoothed, unfiltered signal. I'm the kind of guy that doesn't like onion and pickles on my burgers though, so clearly I just prefer the feedback served to me plain as well. But any Alpha U racers out there, let me know what you think and whether or not you found the detail and frequency settings made a difference to you. I can summarise the Alpha U's feedback as sharp, responsive, really agile and very, very powerful, if not the cleanest and clearest feedback that I've ever felt before. I do feel that wheelbases such as the VRS DFP or the Acertec Invicta could produce a similar raw, unfiltered feeling without that additional level of noise and grit that the Alpha U seems to impart. The Alpha U has incredible power and speed, but it just leaves a few rough edges on the cuts it makes here or there, especially if you're using smaller, lighter wheels, you'll really feel it there. And in my experience during testing, the only way to really sort of get rid of that granular feeling is to add smoothness to the base or add mass and inertia to whatever wheel you're putting on it. And I've never really had to do that with the bases that I've previously reviewed. But let's not forget that I am just one person with a particular preference and taste in force feedback. Everybody likes something a little bit different. I just happen to like mine with absolutely no meat on the bone, no filtering, no smoothness, nothing like that. And the Alpha U is probably one of the sort of noisiest and dirtiest force feedback experiences if you tune it to be that way. So there could be a lot of people out there using Alpha U's that have no idea what the heck I'm talking about, and maybe you wouldn't either. So I'm just one person, one point of view. Always remember that. Either way, it's still an absolute beast and excellent to use. I would be more than happy if the Alpha U was basically the only wheelbase I was allowed to use forevermore. I'd still be overjoyed because it's excellent, but it's just that the VRS wheelbase still just pips the crown for the best pure force feedback feeling for me. Noise levels are average for a wheelbase of this power. I do think that the floating metal collar from the quick release system maybe adds a dash of metallic noise when subjected to the absolute hardest and high frequency force feedback effects, but I find it to be on par overall. I've heard similar metallic resonance from Moser and Fanatec wheelbases that also use a similar spring-loaded metallic collar system. Now, you can't talk about Simagic as an option without acknowledging the long list of products and wheels they now have available. They have almost everything you need for almost every breed of sim racing, and sometimes multiple iterations of it. Shifters, sequential shifters, high-end pedals, low-end pedals, steering wheels, formula wheels, GT wheels, handbrakes. They have everything, and a lot of it is highly regarded and fairly priced. I've barely scratched the surface myself. The Simagic GT Neo is my best value steering wheel, and the Simagic Neo X, as seen here, is my best value hub. The P1000s with haptics are perhaps the most fun sim racing pedal set. Simagic do come across to me as a passionate brand that is focused on making sim racing fun and interesting, and that is what kind of makes them lovable. It's for this reason that sim racers looking to buy once and cry once are also looking to check out once with one brand, and Simagic has the biggest, broadest ranges of options for that right now. However, that leads me into adding one final little footnote on the ecosystem. Simagic appears to be developing a new line of wheelbases under their Up Plus ecosystem. Nobody can really say yet at time of recording whether it's basically just a cosmetic repackaging of the Alpha wheelbases into a new modular package, or whether it's going to be an actual upgrade, a refinement, or an improvement on the Alpha wheelbase lineup, an actual successor to the Alpha wheelbases. So do be aware of the distant speck on the horizon that is Simagic's new wheelbase. It's probably a long way off still, but it is nonetheless a thing that exists. I'll conclude by reiterating and focusing on the one biggest deciding factor I think you should consider. Simagic usually builds really good stuff at a really fair price. I find their products enjoyable and fun, and the Alpha U is an excellent wheelbase which will satisfy almost everything you could ask of a top-end performer. The only question mark is for how long you're willing to bet that will be. That 1 year warranty is important to know about if you're spending a lot of money on any one item. If you're like me, then the warranty is rarely something you even think about before buying, but when you're spending this much, you probably should. You'll get a 2-year warranty with the likes of Acertec and Simicube regardless of where you are. 3-year warranty with VRS, you get the idea. Even though Simagic is bound to offer 2 years by law in EU countries, Simagic themselves would only cover it for 1 year if it was just up to them. As far as I can see, the only other manufacturer holding the line at just 1 year is Camus. Simagic does also rely on its regional distributors to do most of the heavy lifting when it comes to warranty and repairs and support. Simagic just needs to meet their competitors on that warranty period. If they ever up it to 2 years, for the wheelbases at least, then they will take away the biggest disparity and the single #1 criticism I have of the Alpha U. Because other than that, it's a really strong choice, a very good performer, and generally has loads going for it. And that's it. Thanks very much for watching. I hope this has been entertaining and informative for you. Please don't hesitate to ask any questions. If I've missed anything you want to know, I'll do my best to answer them. And thank you very much for watching. Don't forget also that if you do proceed to buy Simagic gear, be it the Alpha U or anything else, using the affiliate links in the description helps support me at no added cost to you. And cheers again.